Welcome to Coming to New England. My name is Victor Dumont, and my guest today is my wonderful stepmom, Margaret Earl. Thank you for being here.
Happy to be here.
When and where were you born?
I was born in 1966 in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania.
What world events had the most impact on you growing up?
Growing up, the most significant events that I remember included some of the elections of the presidents and sort of looking forward at the turn of the century, thinking that would be almost unthinkable that eventually it would be the year 2000.
What is your earliest childhood memory?
Spending summers in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, where my mother's mother still lived when I was little, and that was sort of historically a coal mining part of the country, and we would all go spend the summers there and sort of make up games with some of the neighbor children there and just spend some of the summer months having fun with simple games there.
Describe the personalities of your family members.
My family, I would say, was mostly subdued. So family dinners were quieter, and my dad was his mom was from Germany, his dad was English, and that's a more reserved group of people culturally. So I think that we had a more reserved approach to things, and I'd say when I got older and I met families that maybe had louder, boisterous dinner time conversations, I saw that my family had been pretty restrained and subdued in comparison.
What were some of your favorite things to do when you were growing up?
So I grew up in a really rural area in upstate New York, and I personally love to be alone and go hike in the woods and make forts and pick flowers and create things from nature. So that was probably my favorite thing to do.
How is the world today different from when you were a child?
Yeah, I think that the world is so different in that we're connected through the internet. And so I grew up before the internet, and that's, I think, the single biggest difference. Social media is such a huge change, and also our country is just becoming so much more diverse with people from different parts of the world. I grew up in a town that was pretty homogenous, and so there's just much more diversity in the United States and much more connectivity.
What was school like for you as a child, and what were your best subjects, and where did you attend?
So I attended a little school that was in the central location in in upstate New York, and all the kids from all the surrounding towns went to the same small school. So my graduating class was 130 people, and it was all very homogenous in terms of cultural background and race. It was pretty white Protestant growing up in that town. School was okay. I don't think the school district was excellent. It was okay. And I mean, a nice thing about it was you knew all your classmates from kindergarten through graduation. My best subjects were English, always, and my worst subject was trigonometry, in which I got a 36 on my midterm, which I still remember.
What kind of after-school activities or sports did you participate in?
I did lots of sports, and I was the first girl in my school district to run cross country, and I was the only girl on the team, which was hard, and it would have been better if I'd been really good at it, but I was slow, so that was, So that was a hard road, but I did cross country for 4 years, field hockey for 2, track for 6, volleyball for 2, swim team for a couple. So I did a bunch of sports.
Do you remember any popular fads or hairstyles, clothes?
Yeah, big hair.
Big hair.
So I would have big hair in junior high. You sort of flip your hair over and let it and spray it while it's down, and you flip it back, and it just can be very big. And when I was in junior high, I remember corduroy pants were like the big thing, and putting a comb in your back pocket where you could see the end of the comb in your back pocket. That was really hip.
Did you have any childhood heroes?
I would say really my dad was my hero. I think, sometimes I meet young people today who are very in tune with current events and very in tune with national movements, and you see the young people who are getting very politically involved today. I wasn't like that. I think I was pretty focused on the local, and so for me, I looked locally for my heroes, and my hero was my dad.
What were some of your favorite artists, like musical artists?
Johnny Osmond.
Donny Osmond.
That was my first album. I got a Johnny Osmond album. Yeah.
Did you have any pets growing up?
We always had cats, and my first cat was named Fluffy. She was a calico cat, very sweet. And we once had a dog named Peanuts, who was a golden lab mix, and very sweet too.
You said you grew up Protestant. What was that like, and did you attend church?
Every Sunday we attended church. Church was definitely part of my routine growing up. We attended a Presbyterian church, and it wouldn't have mattered to my family that it was Presbyterian versus Methodist versus other kind of Protestant denominations, but it's just that was the local church, and we went from the whole time that I grew up.
Who were some of your friends growing up?
So mostly when I was really young, my friends were those who lived in closest proximity to me. So as I said, I lived in a rural area, so it was quite a trek to get to a friend's house, but I would walk up the road a mile or so to some of my closest neighbors, and we would, so I had a friend who was the daughter of a farmer, and I had another friend who lived further up the road. And then as I got older, my friends were also athletes with me. So the friends that I made on sports, they were my closest friends in high school.
Nice. Describe a typical family dinner. Did you eat together, and who usually prepared the meals?
So we always ate together. Every weekday night we ate together, and every Sunday afternoon we ate together, and my mom was the cook. And it was a pretty standard, then typical, what would have been considered typical American meal, which was like, meat, potatoes, and vegetables, and bread. So we would have like meatloaf and mashed potatoes and broccoli. That was a typical meal, or pot roast and potatoes and corn. I mean, those were typical meals. And we always ate together. I would say there was some conversation, but maybe it wasn't as rich a conversation as would have been nice. I think it was sort of quiet.
How were holidays growing up? Did your family have any special traditions?
Yeah, I mean, we celebrated typical Christian and American holidays. So Christmas was pretty typical. We would go to church on Christmas Eve, and then come home, play games, open one gift, have a special Christmas breakfast, and open all our presents in the morning. On Thanksgiving, we just had a huge meal that was pretty standard. And Easter, we always went to church and sort of dressed up for Easter and had Easter baskets. So they were, I think they were pretty typical holiday activities for folks and families.
You're a really good cook and baker. Did you get any of those recipes from your mom or any other family members?
Some. As you may know, I'm vegan, and so I take all the meals that I knew growing up, some of them, and translate them into a vegan version of what I knew growing up, or what my husband knows growing up. So most meals can be translated into a vegan meal. So like I guess meatloaf would be an example that I can make a vegan meatloaf that's similar to what I grew up on, but vegan.
Transitioning into my father, your husband, what was it like being proposed to? Where did it happen, and how did it make you feel?
So I think that the time that I think it wasn't a formal proposal so much as it was beginning to talk about it. And we were both a bit older and both knew that we were looking for the next serious relationship to be marriage. So I think it grew out more of conversation about what we both wanted and deciding that it was a good match.
Certainly was. What memory stands out most from your wedding day?
The memory that most stands out on our wedding day, we had a family wedding where it was me and your pop and you and Val, and it was sort of a whole family coming together. And I remember that you and your twin brother Valmore had a favorite pillow called Elefante. And so we made that part of the ceremony. So the way we did it was your dad and I didn't believe in the whole father marching the daughter down the aisle, giving her away thing. So your dad and I were at different points in the woods. We were outside and we all kind of walked to one point, and you and Valmore and all our families met us, and we all hugged and kissed everybody. And then your dad and I walked down together with you and Val having the rings on the Elefante pillow.
I remember that vividly.
Yeah.
What do you believe is the key to a successful marriage?
Respect. I think respecting the other person and never taking them for granted, and also being kind. And your pop and I have a rule that sometimes when you're really busy and you're driving and you're stressed, it's easy to kind of launch into like walking in and worrying about who did the dishes or didn't do the dishes. But our rule is that when we walk in, we hug each other for 20 seconds before we say anything else. And that is transformative. And I think every couple should just hug each other and connect before they talk about other stuff, because it brings down your blood pressure and your heart rate, and helps you just remember each other as humans before you start to get into household chores and stuff. So that's been really helpful.
What is one thing you want people to remember most about you?
I want people, I guess if I were to live the life that I want to live, I hope that, that I was a good stepmom would be good, and committed to my family, and that I was an animal rights supporter and spoke my truth about that.
What is your proudest moment as a parent?
My proudest moment as a parent, I think, makes me proud that you invited me here, so that makes me proud. I think every day I see you and Val being a wonderful people, every time I see that, and I hope that I think you have a wonderful mom and a wonderful dad and wonderful grandparents, and everybody played a part, and I hope my part was being pretty organized and dependable.
Lastly, how would you define the American dream?
I think sometimes the American dream causes a lot of damage to people because they think they have to live up to whatever that means. And I would hope that our American dream could be learning to cooperate better, and support one another more, and worry about the greater good rather than just our individual pursuits.
Good answer. And it has been my pleasure to interview you today. This has been Victor Dumont, and you are watching Coming to New England.
Thank you.